Welcome to the DevReady podcast. Joining me on an episode of the DevReady podcast today, I have Michael Meyer. Michael and I had a quick chat a couple of weeks ago, so I don't really know too much about him. So for those of you that are listening and that are new to the episode, we'll let Michael take it away and introduce himself because I'll do a terrible job at that. So Michael, thanks for joining me on the episode today.
Terrific. Thanks for having me on the show, Anthony, and a delight to be here. I'm a technologist that's been in the industry for close to 30 years now, and it's been a delight to be able to solve amazing problems for people in the digital world. In this day and age, I get to work with people to, in particular, bring back their leadership into focus. And with that, I've written a book called Weird is the New Normal, The Unlikely Path of Leadership, a very curious approach to doing leadership in the new world era, where we learn from the days gone by and the future and what it's going to entail. Because why? Digital and technology has changed everything. We no longer live in the same sense where we make our fortunes on pitching our lot against a plot of land that we can go and toil at and make our fortunes. Instead, we do that in a virtual way. And so we very much spend a lot of time working with business leaders and owners to do that and to see technology thrive and become a powerhouse for their leadership moving forward. I very much was one of those techies back in the 90s that started on the help desk.
Yep.
And learnt a lot of things, I think, in very many ways, the hard way, and being able to translate that into really productive results over the years and being able to bring some great learning to the space.
So from that help desk, what path did you take to when you stepped out on your own and you moved into helping people in that leadership space?
Yeah, so I started out doing internal IT. In those days, it was mostly software development or IT. What was it going to be? And in many ways, I like what I can see. I like plugging in cables and seeing things move from point A to point B more readily. To that end, though, I think one of my really big passions in this space has very much come about in my way to see people thrive and to see and to work with people right at their desk, get that success right there. And then when you can sort something out or take them to the next step, because at the end of the day, tech support is not only fixing a problem, yet it's also teaching that person for their next step so that they can do great things. And over the years, I worked my way up through to the technical side of things, doing a lot of infrastructure, data, and so on. A little bit of software coding around the fringes as well. You can't keep a techie back.
No, you can't.
And just started consulting in a lot of traditional kinds of ways that we would expect through managed service providers and quite a few large businesses and industries through that different time. And many of us, I noticed, were really passionate about, as they were working up that through the pathways, realizing it was a bit of a ceiling that people would hit. And we would delight and bring great outcomes for people. Yet at the end of the day, strategy kind of is one of those things that we aspire to want to do, and we can kind of do it a good amount. Yet to initiate that thought, to initiate that ownership, can only come from the top. If I ask you the question, who are the great people out there that lead in a world that is resilient, has heaps of grit, has worked out how to do all these things? You know, Anthony, what pops into your mind when you hear a question like that?
I'm not really sure. Steve Jobs still pops into my mind, even though he's been gone for a while, because he was steering that ship and driving it, and he had a conviction about what he believed, which is what other people didn't see.
Yeah, and he's one of those visionaries that can read between the lines, isn't he? And he's a techie through and through. He could see the opportunity, and he could see that it wasn't always material. So when we look at things that are digital, we're looking at something differently. It's through the lens of something that's in essence virtual. You can't see it. You're always seeing everything through the lens of the screen or the device you've got in your hand.
Yep, it's not real.
It's quite a challenge in that sense of things. And so my observation is, if you're looking for the best project manager, the best governance, best oversight you could possibly look for around all these virtual things, who are the people for the past 30 or 40 years that do that well?
It's going to be in the tech space. The ones that have to,
It's in the tech space.
yeah, they have to adapt the fastest.
Yeah. And so this is where I've brought about a concept which I just call the IT organization as a collective habit, because the tech sector does have those things. We've got the best governance, the best project managers known to mankind, and more often or not, they're almost like a separate department or a separate adjunct to the organization as a whole. And why did they do that? And so this is where we talk about a digital literacy gap, but more importantly, a digital leadership literacy gap. Because, Anthony, when we look at all of the wonderful tech people out there, what do they like to do?
Everyone just likes to play and tinker.
They like to play and tinker.
I think if you're really a techie, that's what you like to do, just play with things and tinker until you figure something out.
Have you noticed that the mission and vision for all that tinkering often serves something else?
No.
Yeah, so one of the trends that I've noticed over the career is a lot of us really want to help to make the world a better place.
Yes.
And we want to serve these great companies with a great vision because the companies themselves are trying to change the world. Yet when we look at a lot of the leadership over the years, where is their tension? That tension often comes from the more classical kind of leadership, if you will, against this organization that in many ways built themselves because they weren't getting that leadership.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And so when we think about those different things, how do we understand the results that the IT teams, software development crews, and what they've done and brought into our organizations as a whole is really challenging to measure. And of course, how do you influence something that's so challenging to measure?
Yeah, there's great difficulty there because generally the IT arm or department or whatever it's called, they get sandwiched under like the CFO at a large corporate, and then it just becomes a cost-cutting exercise, an expenditure. It's not what value can they bring, it's how do we reduce the cost to just operate, because they just maintain operations.
So when we're thinking that way, what's our default position? It's a cost center. It's a cost at that point. So where's the mindset there? Yet I want to bring you a new term, if you will. You might have heard this one before, the entrepreneurial revolution, because we don't make our legacies and our wealth focused on staking our plot and toiling it in the same way that we did several hundred years ago. How does a lot of wealth appear in the world these days? And more often or not, it's in efficiency, empowerment, and new assets. And in general terms, where are those new assets going to be? In soft assets. So virtual or intellectual property based assets. And that's really where a lot of the new economy is moving to, or moved to. Like my business is one of those. We very much live firmly in the digital economy. Everything that we do doesn't really touch into a material way, one way or another. Yet, if you've been doing business for 20 or 30 years and recognizing that these new people are entering the marketplace, it gets a bit uncomfortable, hey?
It can.
Yeah. Geography doesn't constrain us in the same way anymore, does it?
No, there's the entire world is open.
Yeah.
And since COVID, it's even more open and more fast-paced and more connected.
And the big challenge is, what does that aspirational 16-year-old with a laptop and a Facebook account can do these days? It means that we can get competition from anywhere.
Yep.
And it's cheaper than ever. And without that geographical boundary, competition is absolutely rising. And we're losing a foothold from a lot of traditional ways. Where we've seen traditional manufacturing move to other countries entirely, we see this in the United States at the moment. They're keen to bring manufacturing back to the US. It's costing them a fortune. To be able to reclaim that intellectual property, the ability to tool up in that way, is going to be a challenge for them. Yet at the same time, there's amazing factories connected through digital mechanisms, AliExpress, that can turn out one widget or a million widgets quickly and easily. So is the value at that point around our classical manufacturing and what design that we brought en masse It isn't really.
No, I think the value lies in being able to serve the customer how fast you can get the product. That's what the customer sees the value is. They need a thing now. Where can I get it the fastest? And that's why, like Amazon's next day or same day delivery has cemented them in the position they're in.
So when we look at it, what becomes the powerful part is the secret sauce and the thing that makes us human. And that's where the power lies, in these soft assets with our intellectual property and our ability to deliver on our secret sauce and bring it to life in our industry. And that's the big challenge we have in this day and age. How do you lead something that you can't see? And to that end, if you've been in the tech sector for ages, how do you lead something in a world around you at a big worldwide scenario that you're not familiar with either? Because perhaps you haven't got that leadership training and business acumen that other people have, that they've done MBAs.
But then even having an MBA is only a certain lens and a textbook prescribed way of looking at something. It's not going to give you everything, and it's going to be, the syllabuses are behind certain times as well. So that has its own challenges again. But what sort of led you to have this sort of breakthrough in thinking that this is very underutilized? Like you must have experienced something in your career time and time again to say, yep, that's the nugget that's the vein that I have to dive into.
Absolutely. And so what I discovered is I was trying to work with so many people, consulting with them to bring about positive change and to see them leverage that opportunity to really valuable ways. And not being able to get as far as I would have liked. Creating that influence in their world isn't straightforward or easy. And so with that, I did some research of my own and worked towards how do you build accountability and oversight, which is where all that original research came into it. And with that, I was able to also then look at how do you then lead something that you can't see?
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the really big things. So when we talk to those people that see the world as though they're looking at it through the matrix, there's this kind of visual impression that's going on in their brain about it, isn't there? So like they can kind of just see the dots being joined together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the power of imagination. Because while we can't see that, there's other things that we know that we can't see. Electrons. We know it's there. That jolt, when we get zapped, we know that the electron's there. Yet it's also something that we can't see. And that also gets challenging. When we wielded the electron in a light bulb, you flick a switch and you watch it come on. Yay. And so what's the big difference, though, when you've got the electron that you can't see but you can somehow see a result with a light bulb going on? That result's not as obvious in the virtual world because decision-making gets even harder. A light bulb has one input and one output, right? Let's get into logic for a brief moment. Yet, for all the computers and all the predictability of a 1 and a 0, how many times can you feed it perhaps 10 inputs, forecast maybe 20 outputs, and you get about 50?
It depends how good it's been coded.
Exactly. And that unexpected consequence of us telling it what to do, wielding it, controlling it, making it do great things, we can't always forecast the unexpected, but we can cope with it really well. People who are in the tech industry cope with it amazingly. So that resilience factor is staggering. And they've also built capabilities. We build full stacks and frameworks that can cope with being repurposed in a heartbeat. Scrum exists for a reason. We can turn something around really, really quickly. Yet everything you've learned in an MBA won't. Everything that you've learned in Prince and in Waterfall doesn't shift easily. So there's a learning exercise there, isn't there? So, we've got to learn from all these wonderful tech people that have done great things, bring that into the other world, because there's no reason that you can't do Scrum in a material economy.
Okay. It's just, short planning and short goals. That's all the Scrum comes down to, really, and being able to adjust as environments or outside factors change.
Yeah. Yet how often do we not think, oh, hang on a minute, could I apply that tech methodology to something else in my business? And you go, hang on a minute, it goes both ways. There's great things we can learn from each other. Yet, it's all about the imagination. It's all about storytelling. Because when you can't see that thing, when you want to try and get yourself into that picture of trying to forecast what those unexpected consequences are, that's what movies do so well. When we imagine ourselves in the world of Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, and the situations that arose that were completely unexpected. We never expected that it would be so challenging to get that ring to where it needed to go. And we made 3 movies out of it. And this is the magic of doing those things. And so this is one of the things that I do intrinsically in my organization, is that we bring something very special to that, because we bring that consulting with that edge, where we actually tailor a lot of our work intentionally so that you can reframe leadership on both sides, harness that power, and bring you to a place. If you're more in the leadership background of things and the tech guys have been doing their work, bring it back. Okay. And so when I wrote my book, Weird is the New Normal, that was one of the really big motivators for it. How can I teach these modern great principles of leadership in a way that's likely to resonate with the leader in a very different way? Because I bring classical material economy and digital economy leadership together, which you don't see too often. And to that end, I then go and teach it through that storytelling. So if you want to go on a great quest where Lord of the Rings meets Dungeons and Dragons and learn what it is to be a modern leader, pick up my book. It'll take you through that.
Yeah, it's a RPG type style book from what we spoke about last time.
You can wield it in all kinds of amazing different ways, whether it be your own quest or part of it's your quest or a side quest along the way. And so one of the big things, though, that we need to understand when we deal with these problems, and I think you might have heard this before, Anthony, someone in a meeting and one of the classical leaders going, I'm just so frustrated. Why won't this tech just bloody work? And that's not uncommon. That frustration that that leader is experiencing is for them a very real pain. Yet this is one of the big things that we've accidentally done. Because if we don't understand something enough and we ask someone else to do it, we delegate that out, we accidentally often give away our leadership with it.
Yep.
And so is that frustration at that point directed at the tech guys when they make that exclamation?
It always is.
It always is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because in their world, the knowledge, as far as they're concerned, is it must be their fault. Yet at the same time, what was the result you were looking for? How did you communicate what that result should be and how you would achieve it? If you've got that gap, what are all the tech guys going to do? They're just going to sit there and do what they do best. Try.
Yep.
Use the IT organization as powerfully as they can and try and make forecast decisions for you. Can they ever meet you, though?
No, they're in their own silo. They've got their own world, worries and concerns, their own department. So having disparate information throughout an organization where the departments aren't working together or the different levels is always where the challenge comes into an organization, because people have their own agendas and they want to look after their own jobs at a large corporate, and not everyone's there for the same reason to drive the business forward.
Indeed. Exactly, because even the tech guys have a limited view. They do the best with what they can do. They've been primed to be passionate, servant-hearted people, to make great, fun things happen using tech. And this is one of those things that I feel is one of these really important lessons. And the thing is, it's totally learnable. And they're things that we can deal with. And yes, it means learning something new. And a digital leadership literacy is what you're going to need to do. Because for you to be able to make those decisions means that you need to know enough of the digital economy and how it works so that you can communicate those results. And to that end, include the tech guys in your decision making? Could there be times where you've got work for them to do, but perhaps they weren't in the right meeting at the time? Maybe they need to have some more inclusion in that space. They're great people that have learned out how to do amazing things. Perhaps as a leader, go and meet some of the IT project managers and software development project managers that are out there and go, what can I learn from you today? Because that's a great way of learning how to see something differently.
Yep.
And in the same sense of things, let's have a think about that decision making for a moment. If we look at our decision making through the physical world, we turned on, a decision was, I want to turn the light on. So click, on it goes. Yet, when we've got to influence decision making in the virtual world, it can often feel like a black box because it's just not too clear what's going on inside of it. That's what I call the black box zone. So we need to wield that. However, what if I was to say to you, imagine the great Amazon River, and you've got your little steamboat that you're chugging down the river with the mighty rapids coming up in front of you. You can see rocks scattered everywhere. We can see that the river's starting to move in different directions. We can see that there's rocks in the way. We somehow need to navigate around it. Oh no, it's getting faster. The water's speeding up. We need to make faster decisions, but I don't know what that rock is going to do to me. Oh, hang on a minute. I needed to go down that left fork down the river, not that middle one that I'm sort of being pulled towards now. That's the decision making that's going on. If you take that story and say, well, that's what's going on inside the black box, what maybe can you start thinking about differently at that point? Hang on a minute. Unexpected consequences of hitting a rock? What are the unexpected consequences if a variable's not declared?
Yeah, it's just having visibility into the process and more information, to more context to make better decisions.
Yeah, and start thinking about, and this is the wonderful power in being able to transform our understanding of the virtual world, is using those stories. The one that I've just shared is a powerful example of how you can start going, oh, hang on a minute, that's going on. Now, let's tie that into real world for a moment. For a long time, I used to do a lot of work with voice over IP systems. And you'd talk and work with a customer and say, okay, at the end of the day, for all the menus and all the things that are going to go on, what happens if the phone doesn't get answered? And what do you think they say to me, Anthony?
Oh, go to voicemail.
Well, not quite that. They'll go, but the phone is going to get answered.
Okay.
I've instructed my team to answer the phone.
Yep.
And we've got our call center set up. Our people are all set up for it. We've got groups and things and whatever. Mm-hmm. The phone will get answered, Mike. And I can sit there in a meeting when insistent. They will sit there and go, oh, I promise you, we've got our processes established, well documented, what everybody's got to do. And I don't disagree with that. Wonderful practices to have. But what do we know, Anthony?
Things happen.
Things happen. A phone call could just get dropped. But what happens to humans with the best intention of processes, right?
Yeah, things get missed, you overlook steps, you get caught up in something else, you're distracted, there's a multitude of things that can occur in a day-to-day when you're following a practice with best intentions.
So we still cater for those unexpected circumstances. So while I'm consulting there and those people are not thinking that it's important in that moment, perhaps you're in the middle of a marketing campaign and all of a sudden someone's called in around a $100,000 contract. And all of a sudden you hear beep, 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 beep. What's the customer experience saying?
Yeah, it's a bad experience.
It's a bad look. Yet these are the kinds of decisions that need to be thought about. So if we take those opportunities to look at those unintended consequences, look at the decision making more broadly, connecting more with our tech teams that do a wonderful job of that, we can start being more powerful.
Yep.
And this is that, because everything that was set up in that example It was setting up for a largely perfect thing. All your classical examples of having well-established business systems, well-established oversight around your teams and people is just absolutely wonderful. Yet there's these unknowns that and what you'd set up with couldn't necessarily cope with. So that resilience and grit that you needed to also be able to say, oh, that's right, Mike, maybe I did need to also think a bit more differently and broadly. Or what else do I need to think about? Or maybe the question to ask is, what else do I need to think about? And who do I need to ask that of?
Yeah. So in the real world, what's happening in AI and the changes that we've seen over the last 2 years, and the multitude of changes that are becoming in the coming months, weeks, days, because it's moving so fast, it really puts into light, I think, what you're saying about in the tech space, where that's where the resilience has come up from, because there's so many things that are changing, and it's always external changes that are pushing the direction and the innovation in the tech space. While your entire team may not be innovative or willing to change, they're forced to, because that's just what's happening in the space. And otherwise they get left behind, and that probably what drives a chunk of innovation as a generalization in a lot of industries. Are you seeing that that's where a lot of the black boxes are happening between the leadership and sort of those tech organizations? It's because there's such a fast-paced world, and then the business world doesn't change as fast?
It is absolutely the case. But in saying that, though, we need to also be careful, because change for change's sake doesn't help either.
No.
So just because the world is moving around us doesn't mean we throw all of our eggs out of one basket into another. We've seen that recently. We had a case a few months ago where 700 people lost their jobs for an AI implementation that didn't ask that question. And a vast number of those people needed to be re-employed, because we thought the golden solution was in this implementation of AI, and we possibly shot ourselves in the foot in that moment for that organization of not asking those questions.
Yeah, they jumped the gun too quick, I think.
Yeah, so do we throw it all out with it? For all the things that I've learned over the years, what actually makes technology more powerful than ever is the person who is wielding it,
Yep,
not the
definitely.
tech itself.
And that's always been the case. So the best comparison I ever heard about the AI replacing people's jobs is farming. So once the tractor was invented, all right, farmers are going to be out of business. Tractors will do everything. Someone still has to drive the tractor. AI will be coming to take that job soon, but then still someone has to program it, tell it what to do, and eventually it may be completely autonomous, but that's going to take a long time to get to that.
It is going to take a long time to get to that. What we have learned is that adaptations in technology over time do result in people losing jobs. That is true. Let's not deny that is true.
Yeah.
And a good example is the farming example. Do we need 50 harvesters, in the form of people to do the job that one machine can do? Not anymore. However, did those people go on to new and more exciting things that they could be more powerful around? Absolutely. And that's a theme and trend that we see constantly with every iteration of technological revolutions. Yes, the old job vanished and it was surpassed with something else more powerful that humans could do, more valuable, more dignified, and more human-centered type of activity.
Yeah. It shifts to the having that connection, the face to face. And that's the relationship, because that's where all business happens, really. Unless there's a relationship, it doesn't really work.
Indeed. And so there's a soft skill set as leaders about understanding that empathy, that emotional intelligence, isn't there then?
So what's some final words on those leaders that are trying to navigate this AI world at the moment with their tech teams? And you'll get, from my experience and what I've seen online, you'll got people in the tech space that are AI's the thing, it's doing everything. And then in the development space, especially, you've got a lot of developers and engineers saying it's never going to write good code, it'll never replace us. Everyone's just jumping onto a hype train. So you have to take that into account in your organization as well.
Yeah. And it comes with one of the most intrinsic things. And I say in the phrase of saying, be curious, be weird. Because when we're curious, we ask questions. When we recognize that the world never looks like what we think it is, it's weird.
That's a good way to put it.
And that also means that we can move ourselves to a better place when we think that way, because we don't get caught necessarily in the status quo doing it the same way. That curiosity moves us to learning and growth.
Yes. If it's for that reason, then yeah, that's definitely the way to do it.
Indeed.
So if anyone wants to find out more about yourself, Michael, and how they can reach out, how can they do that?
Absolutely. So from a business point of view, you can always find me at m31.com.au or on LinkedIn. I love to connect with people on LinkedIn and always accept an invitation. So find me on LinkedIn. Very easy to find. If you want to understand a great story with D&D character sheets and learn what it is to learn to become a great leader, weirdisthenewnormal.net.
And we'll add all those to the show notes. Once again, Michael, it's been a pleasure having you on and an interesting chat. Hopefully this has helped someone trying to navigate this tumultuous time and trying to figure out where to go and hopefully not dump all their eggs in one basket into another.
Excellent. Leadership can be done. Leadership is for everyone. Leadership at every level.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Anthony.